I mean, because I think we've come so many places and spaces since all this started. Your journey has involved your dad to some extent too, and his experience. Now, when you say you came from these parents, these amazing parents, you actually grew up and they are from a different place, a slightly different place with a slightly different, not slightly, a different culture and a different how you behave and how you purport yourself and what you believe in and how you live what you believe in. And I love that they challenge you to challenge them. Sharing something about where you come from might lend something to this. I come from West Virginia and Western Pennsylvania. So I grew up, but I've spent time in Washington State, and then I've been in North Carolina a long time, but I've had beautiful opportunities to move beyond my original roots. And my family also provided me some amazing spaces and places to become this person I am. Yeah. So how about your folks? A little bit more about how you got to be who you are.
Well, like all of us, we end up where our parents take us, right? That's where we start. So we don't get to choose that. And I was, even though I was born in the United States, lived here for a while, but my parents are originally from the Caribbean in Jamaica, a phenomenal place to grow up. And my mom was in the space of working in the diplomatic corps, and what I call the civil servants who really do the work, and they're committed to the people no matter what's going on around them. They're there to do that work. My dad was in the world of banking and IMF and later did banking. So they made a very clear choice to raise their kids in the land that they grew up in for their own particular reasons. And I'm very grateful for that, because it allowed me to understand the richness of my roots and my heritage. And but if you ask me what's my cultural background, I'll be honest and I'll say my parents really raised me to grow up in the culture of Christ. And I'm putting that out there because my parents, they're Christian, and we grew up in an environment where we were told basically, do to someone else what you would want them to do to you. If you don't know what to do in any moment or any situation, and you're not sure how to handle it, that's usually a good starting place. And what that forces you to do is it forces you to be, one, conscious about the decisions and actions you're taking, but two, you have to then value the other person, because you realize that if the situation were reversed, it's kind of like the Iron Curtain concept of you don't know what's behind the curtain. So it could be your loved one that you're making a decision about. So when you make that decision, make that choice as if the other person on the other side of that curtain were you. And I'm grateful for that cultural heritage, because then it allows me to see everyone in the world as connected to me and valued. A wise person told me that at the end of the day, everyone just wants to be heard, feel valued, and retain their dignity. And I hold on to that because no matter what, whether you're the billionaire, whether you're the pauper, whether you're the frontline essential worker, or you think you're, at the top of the whatever social structure that we have created, no matter what, those things still apply. And I think I've learned as I've gotten older that if you can hit those 3 marks when you engage with people, you usually do pretty well. And if you miss any of those marks, there's usually strife and chaos and pain.
So it gives us another tight connection, because my ultimate is if I can both see that you have another point of view and then start to really appreciate the why behind your point of view and your perspective and the reasons you're doing. I mean, there's got to be reasons there. And if I can figure out any points of connection where we can start to have a grip here, that we have some common ground. Right. And I like the term common ground. We have something in common that will keep us connected. It's when I have trouble finding that common ground, or you have trouble finding that common ground, that we may need greater space, because if we can't find that common, then it gets really uncomfortable for us to share time and space and
Right.
things, because we don't see the common. And so we may need greater space at first to sort of sort this out a little bit. But I mean, it's very rare for me not want to re-engage and say, I know we didn't get it last time, but are you at all interested in seeing if we can figure this out? Because I don't want to stay in a conflict when I feel like I don't understand something or I'm missing something. And I'm flustered because, I mean, I think I'm really trying to get it, and that's where, it's hard sometimes for me because it's let go. She said, let go, leave it alone.
Oh, yeah. I have a question about that though, because you clearly want things to work in a certain direction and you're willing, as you said, to do the work and engage. But we have to be honest that we're not all at that same space and the same time.
We are not.
Some of us are further along on that spectrum than others. And I have to, remind myself that we all look at things through the lens of our own experiences.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is a truth that I don't think we really process as much as we should, because then you'll realize if I'm only looking through my experiences, that my experiences are limited just to me, or maybe they aren't, but you have to be conscious about that and question that. And when you, I think I was fortunate to have a lot of experiences so that my lens allowed me to see things in many different ways, but not everybody has a lot of those experiences. And so their lens is very, in the medical world, they say myopic, but
I was going to say monocular.
yeah, but and it's not that it's good or bad. It's just that
it's just what it is. I mean, that's, if all I can use is one eye, that's all I can use. I mean, but that means if I'm going to try to do something, I need to keep that in my mind as I'm trying to help, because some people have an N of one and that's all they've really explored was their N of themselves and where they are. And if I'm going to enter the relationship, my first thing has to be how uncomfortable or comfortable, how much of, wow, you've put me in a category of not you, and it's you and then not you. And it's like, okay, wow. Okay, let me see if I can figure this out. And, again, that willingness of the other person to make eye contact, to be able to do something. And that's why sometimes I think, I need to step away so I can sort it out for me. And maybe go explore some other options first to see if, that's an end I'm not sure about. I need to learn more about it.
Teepa, I'm going to interject for a minute, because you're tapping on a scientific concept that we use and spend a lot of time, energy, and money and policy around, which is that N of one. And you really don't want policy to be driven by just an experience of a person. You've only seen it through one lens. You really want them to get as wide a net as they can when they're assessing, does this work for everyone? Is this good for everyone? Without losing sight of that one N. Right? In science, they typically like to throw out that outlier, that one N sometimes when it doesn't seem to match everything else. But the shrewd and wise ones, I think, and actually the ones who've done all the, for lack of a word, inventions that we now take for granted in our lives, are the ones who paused when they saw that one different and said, let me understand that better. Let me be curious about it. Let me learn it, understand why. And so that's where all the great things are. And I get a little science focused sometimes, but the average person in this country has heard enough about Christopher Columbus. And he wasn't the only explorer in the world, but the truth of the matter is, where he came from, everyone saw the world through one very small lens, right? And it was only when someone was intentional and had the courage to say, let me go and see if it's different, that he really came upon a whole new world, a whole new world, right? A big brand new world, a phenomenal world, right? So my point is that no matter where we are in our life and no matter how comfortable we are in the journey and the space we're at, that I encourage everybody to be conscious and intentional about asking the question, is my experience really the right only experience? could there be a different way of looking at this? And to remind themselves of all the things in their history that they experience every day, whether it's your peanut butter, whether it's your electricity, whether it's the fact that you live where you live, those all came because someone said, wait a minute, is there a different, could I be looking at this differently? Could I experience it? So just be willing to try different, be willing to look at it through a different lens. And I think, yeah, that gets into some other issues about how things,
it does. So,
But,
one of the things, Karin, that's one of the things that I find that I try to encourage people to do as much as they can is if I'm not getting it, what if I step alongside you and I look from where you're looking? With your permission, if I come in alongside you and I try to view a little more the way, see it from as much as I can from where you're coming from, although I can't clearly because I have all this other stuff in my background, but if I can come alongside you and take that view of it, take all that data that you're getting to see what if I were getting data that way? What if I put my hand around one eye and close the other one? What if that's all I could do? Would that change how I might perceive you? And it's like, oh, I've got a new idea. And that idea of being an innovator, for me, a lot of innovation that I come up with comes from imagining myself as best I can from the other person's perspective, putting myself there, and then taking what I know about living in all these other spaces and going, but if you didn't know that, so how could what I know and what you are experiencing, how could we fit those together in a different way that's supportive rather than confrontational?
Right.
I mean, is there a way to do that doesn't, it's not that you're less, it's just that you're different. I mean, in whatever end you are, you're different than me and you always will be, but can we become us for a while? Is there an us to be?
I'm going to interrupt you for 1 minute because as I processed some of what you were saying initially, I said, let's parallel this for the person living with dementia, right? Yep. And all of these things that we're talking about, courageous conversation with someone with dementia and how to engage with them. Well, I do stop and ask for divine power at that point. Because it require,
we sometimes need space.
It requires that you pause, and then it asks you to acknowledge that, again, they want to be heard. They want to feel valued. They want to retain their dignity. Because if you've worked with anyone who has dementia, you'll recognize very quickly those are winner positions if you consistently do those things. But then it also forces you to challenge the lens through which you're looking at that person, right? I'm always disheartened when I hear people talking about dementia, not about their personal experience of fatigue and pain and frustration, because that's real, but if they miss that there are value experiences and wins, then their lens is very, it's very pessimistic and, we're just spiraling and we're just waiting for the spiral to end. And, it's in the same way the pandemic we're living through right now, it's not something we would have selected or chosen. And by no means it's something that we would wish for. But I have to tell you, there are many silver linings and blessings that are coming along the way that I am just encouraging us to stop and exhale and process and realize how much they're refocusing us on what matters most to us. And I look at people living with dementia as really divine gifts that refocus me on what matters. I was talking to my mom and my dad yesterday, and I said, he is not worried about absentee ballots, he's not worried about the virus. He's not really worried. He's not worried about any of those things. He's happy, moving along, telling me, he says, God is good. Look at the sky. He's telling me, he's running around singing hymns. He's encouraging me, telling people to stay focused on what matters. I said, technically, I think his experience is probably a little better than mine right now because he's not distracted and burdened by a lot of the thought processes that way.
What you say to me, Karin, is I would so love to have short videos of him as inspirations because I think, this is where we miss what's possible, that missing what's possible, we don't celebrate what's right there in front of us.
The gift that's present.
that chance to uplift by being present in the moment. And yeah, well, he can get me to drop that stuff too. Because I bet any money, some of the hymns he knows, those are ones my grandma sang too. And so, I mean, I'm right with him. And of course, I'll make a joyful noise, not an organized sound. But, you know, I'm all about making joyful noises. And even if I can just catch the rhythm, which will probably be a microsecond off. So don't ask my husband about that. It's always a little late and not quite right. But I just celebrate.
Yes.
And so I think finding those moments to celebrate. We get so wrapped up in stuff that's hard, and it is hard. And your dad has been through so much. I mean, in so many ways, people have tried to squish and mush and make him feel less. And he's just not. He's this remarkable, outstanding gentleman who has so many gifts. And the gift that he gives you is like, wow, a lot of us could use that gift on a regular basis.
Right.
That offer of celebration, that offer of uplift, that offer of worship in a way, regardless of where you come from, that you're seeing and experiencing someone in worship state, being worshipful, that idea of finding joy in the moment. And we spend a lot of time looking for that. And sometimes we're so busy looking for it, we can't even see it when it's right there. So thank you for sharing that.
Hey folks, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to help us spread Teepa's positive approach message around the world. And don't forget to click the bell to get notified when new videos are posted.